return shortly. After the beep sounds, kindly leave your name and phone number so that I may return your call.
You are holding something in your lap,
Yes.
which is a kind of legendary document among jazz scholars. We call it the Birdland Book. Would you tell us something about that?
Well, I refer to this as the Book of Books. It contains a listing of all of the broadcasts that I recorded from the Royal Roost, Birdland, Bop City, and the Half Note. Hundreds of hours of broadcasts, which in most cases were broadcast at 3 to 4 in the morning. And in those days, there were no tape recorders. I was recording on a 16-inch acetate disc. And all of these broadcasts were filed away methodically in order and were available for scholars to peruse.
And you identified the artists, and you even have the timings.
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
Because those days I was making up acetates for individuals who were interested, and I had to know whether it would fit onto a 10-inch 78 or a 12-inch 78. There were no LPs in those days.
Right, right.
And, well, people all over the world are interested in this type of material. Some of it has been issued, but approximately 95% remains unissued, and would present a very good arrangement for some record company to produce on CDs.
Yeah, there's an amazing amount of music there, and it's interesting that there was so much live jazz being broadcast in those days.
Yes. In those days, there was a plethora of material on the air. Every radio station broadcast this incessantly, day and night, as a matter of fact. And fortunately, I was there to take this material off the air. It was done professionally, on professional equipment, and filed away in such a way that it would be available to scholars such as yourself and others who might want to issue it in the future.
How did you first get started doing this?
Well, looking way back, as far back as 1940, I purchased a home recorder, and I began to dub records, not take them off the air, not take broadcasts off the air. And for the next few years, while I was in the Army, I was able to dub records for collectors who couldn't find the originals and wanted a copy. Later on, getting out of the Army in 1946, I had professional equipment and began to take down all of these jazz broadcasts in a proper manner, such as you see listed in the book. And first they were on 16-inch acetate discs. Later on, when tape came into the picture, I was able to record on tape.
Stormy weather, since my man and I ain't together.
Boris, how did you first become interested in jazz?
I always felt something about jazz. As far back as 1930, I listened to broadcasts from the Cotton Club at night. I heard Duke, I heard Don Redman, I heard Cat Calloway, and it pleased me. That's all I can say. I was not a collector yet. I was still going to high school, and I didn't know anything about jazz. It was only later on when Benny Goodman came into the picture around 1935 that I began to have this feeling, this experience about liking what I heard. And from that time on, I was a prisoner of jazz.
Boris, I understand the building that contains all these treasures has quite a history, too.
In reply to your question, the building does have historical significance. The original plot was assembled in 1843 by a nephew of the governor of New York at that time, Peter Stuyvesant. Eventually, the building was built in 1853 as a one-family house with no indoor plumbing. However, the basement did have space for the storing of huge casks of wine, and the owner eventually, Christian Hamill, used it for that purpose. Today, the openings are used instead for storing the master tapes, which you see alongside the walls.